In the middle of a strange alien marketplace, she stood alone, an alien woman, chained beneath a glowing sign that read, "Take as you wish." Crowds passed by every hour. Tall reptilian merchants, insect-like soldiers, creatures with eyes of fire. They all looked at her, but none dared to touch. Some laughed. Some shook their heads. Others whispered, "She is cursed," but her eyes told a different story. Not broken, not defeated, waiting for someone who would see her not as a prize, not as a slave, but as something more. And then across the crowd he appeared, a human, and in that moment, everything began to change. Under the twin suns of a distant world, the marketplace stretched wide and alive with colors, sounds, and smells from 100 alien races. Traders shouted of rare crystals, shimmering fabrics, and fruits that glowed with their own light. The crowd moved like a river, flowing past stalls of every shape and design. Yet in the center, near a raised platform of dark stone, something drew the eye of all who passed. There she was, an alien woman standing quietly, her hands bound by strange chains that seemed to hum softly as if alive. Above her, a glowing sign hovered in the air with words written in many tongues. In the common script it read, "Take as you wish." Many slowed when they saw her. Some creatures laughed softly, shaking their heads as though it was only another cruel display of the market. Others avoided their gaze, unwilling to look too long. A few leaned close and whispered, voices full of unease. None reached out. None even tried. Her eyes told a story her chains could not hide. They were bright, filled not with fear but with something stronger. Patience, perhaps even hope. She did not cry out, she did not beg. She only watched as beings of every kind walked by her, step after step, day after day. The marketplace lived on around her, but she stood apart, like a statue in the middle of noise and chaos. And as the crowd passed her by, it felt as if the sign above was waiting, watching, testing. For all the endless travelers and all the countless species, not one had dared to stop. Not one had chosen to see her as more than the words above her head, but that was about to change. The crowd drifted as always, busy with trade and talk. Yet for the first time in many cycles, a different kind of traveler stepped into the market. His shape was unfamiliar to most there, though whispers spread quickly through the air. A human. Few had seen one in person, and fewer still had reason to expect one on this distant world. He walked with calm steps, eyes curious, pausing at stalls yet never lingering long. There was a quiet confidence in the way he moved, as if he belonged, though every gaze told him otherwise. When he came near the dark platform, his pace slowed. The sign above glowed with its strange invitation, the words shifting between alien scripts until they settled into his own tongue. "Take as you wish." His eyes lifted, then lowered to the figure below. The alien woman remained still, bound as she had been for so long, her posture steady though the chain shimmered faintly around her. Other beings nearby noticed his attention and muttered warnings. Some shook their heads. One whispered to another, "Not wise." "Do not look too long." Another added, "It is not meant for you. Walk away before it follows." Yet the human did not turn aside. Instead, he stood there studying not the chain nor the sign, but her expression. While the others had hurried past, he saw what they ignored. Her eyes met his and held steady, and in that silent moment a question seemed to pass between them. She did not speak, yet her look carried more weight than any word. The marketplace noise faded in his mind. The calls of traders, the hum of machines, even the shuffle of countless feet, all of it blurred as his focus narrowed on her. For reasons he could not explain, he felt as though the place around him had shifted, as though the world itself waited to see what he would do. Still, he did not move closer, not yet. He only watched and she watched back, and in that fragile exchange a sense of change began to stir, unnoticed by the rushing crowd. The air around the platform seemed to thicken, as if the very space wished to hold its breath. The human remained still, his gaze locked with hers while the sign above glimmered with a slow, steady light. Letters shifted across its glowing surface, forming words in dozens of languages before settling back into the simple phrase, "Take as you wish." The repetition felt less like an offer and more like a challenge. The woman tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. She gave no cry for help, no plea for release, only a quiet presence that carried both strength and mystery. The chains around her wrists gave off a faint hum, as though they were not metal at all but something older, something alive. When the human's eyes lingered on them, he noticed the faint pulse within the links as if they were listening. Nearby, alien onlookers grew uneasy. A tall, scaled figure shook its head and murmured to another, "This test is not for us. It has never been for us." A smaller creature added in hushed tones, "Those who try to touch it will not return the same." Yet their warnings did not seem to reach him. The human stepped closer, slow and deliberate until he stood within reach of the strange glow that surrounded her. Still, he did not act. Instead, he spoke softly, words simple but direct. "How long have you stood here?" For the first time, her lips parted. Her voice was quiet, almost carried away by the wind of the market, yet he caught every word. "Time is different here. I have waited longer than I can measure." He frowned, but before he could ask more, she added, "It is not the chain that binds me. It is the choice of those who pass. Every step, every glance, every silence strengthens it." The sign above brightened as if responding to her words. The human looked up at the shifting letters, then back at her steady eyes. Something unseen was happening, something greater than a simple display. It was not only her who was being tested, it was everyone who looked upon her, and now most of all it was him. The marketplace seemed to fall quieter as the human lifted his hand toward the glowing chain. The crowd, which only moments before had bustled with trade and chatter, now leaned back with unease. Eyes of every shape and color fixed on him, waiting to see if he would retreat like the countless others who had paused before this strange sight. But he did not retreat. His fingers brushed against the shimmering links, and at once the surface rippled, sending a soft vibration into the air. The chain was not cold like iron. It felt warm, alive, almost like a heartbeat trapped in metal form. The human drew in a slow breath, steadying himself. Around him, the sign above shifted again, the words burning brighter as if the very letters were trying to warn him away. "Take as you wish." The phrase pulsed with strange energy, echoing faintly in his mind. The alien woman watched silently, her eyes never leaving his face. She did not speak, but her calm presence seemed to steady him. Where others had seen only danger, he felt something different, an invitation to prove what others had not. The chain resisted as his hand closed around it. A faint pressure spread through his palm, as though the links themselves were questioning him, weighing him. Whispers spread quickly through the crowd. "It stirs," one voice said. Another muttered, "He will not last." No one does. Yet he did not let go. Instead, he pulled gently, not with force but with intent. The links glowed brighter, flickering between light and shadow as though they could not decide whether to remain whole. A strange sound filled the air, not loud but deep like the hum of something ancient. Still the human held on, his focus sharp, his will unshaken. The woman's eyes softened, almost as if she could see what others could not. Slowly, a faint crack of light began to appear within the chain. It was not broken yet, but it was changing. Something that had bound her for ages was beginning to shift. Not through strength alone, but through the choice of one who refused to walk away. The glow within the chain spread like threads of light, weaving across each link until it seemed the entire binding was alive with motion. The human did not release his grip, though the energy that moved through it pressed against him, urging him to step back. Around them, the marketplace grew silent. Stalls that had shouted moments ago now seemed distant, their keepers leaning forward in uneasy stillness. Every eye was fixed on the platform, waiting for what would happen next. Then, with a sound like a breath being released, the chain dissolved into particles of light. They floated upward, scattering like dust in the sunlight until nothing remained. The alien woman lowered her arms slowly, her posture shifting as though she had carried a weight for longer than memory itself. The crowd gasped. Some stepped back in awe, others whispered with disbelief. A childlike voice somewhere in the mass asked softly, "How is it possible?" No one answered. The woman looked at the human, and for the first time her voice was steady and clear. These were not chains of metal. They were chains of choice. Each passerby who ignored me gave them strength. Every moment of silence made them heavier. Only an act of mercy could end them. The human frowned slightly, thinking of the countless creatures who had walked past, all unwilling to try. "So why me?" he asked, her eyes held his, calm and knowing. "Because your kind still remembers what others have forgotten. Compassion is the only key that can open locks such as these, and you chose to see me, not the sign above." The marketplace shifted uneasily at her words. For many, they carried shame. For others, fear. But for the human, they carried a new question. If mercy could free her, what else in the galaxy might still wait for someone willing to choose differently? The last shimmer of light from the broken chain faded into the air, but its absence left behind a silence more powerful than any sound. The marketplace, once restless with trade, now felt like a hall of witnesses. Dozens of eyes lingered on the woman and the human, uncertain whether to step closer or to keep their distance. The sign above, once so bright, flickered weakly, its message losing strength. The words blurred, as though they no longer knew what to command. The woman stood taller now, no longer bound, her presence carrying a quiet strength. She looked at the human with something close to gratitude, but also with something deeper, something that felt like recognition. "You have done more than free me," she said softly. "You have broken a cycle." This place was not built to trade goods. It was built to measure hearts. And too many failed. The human glanced around at the silent crowd. Aliens of every shape stood frozen, some lowering their heads, others narrowing their eyes in suspicion. The weight of her words hung heavy, as though each listener knew it spoke of them too. She turned back to him. "Your choice proves what others forgot. In a galaxy full of power and pride, it is kindness that changes the shape of chains. Remember this, human. There are many more bindings across the stars, hidden in plain sight, and your kind may be the only ones willing to unlock them." He nodded slowly, not fully understanding but sensing the truth within her voice. Before he could reply, a shadow passed above. A figure unseen by the crowd watched from the edges of the market, its gaze fixed on the human. A faint whisper carried on the wind, unheard by most but clear to him alone. "So, humanity still remembers." The words lingered as the crowd slowly began to move again, the market returning to life. But for the human, nothing would ever feel the same. What had begun as a journey through a distant world now felt like the start of something larger. An unspoken promise. A path not yet revealed but waiting.